I usually do my things.
Oops, I'm going to pause
Hello, Lynn. It's so nice to meet you, and thank you for talking with me.
it. Hey,
It is
Jodi,
so
pleasure.
wonderful. So we were talking a little bit before we pressed the record button, and the conversation was so stimulating, and I had so many connections, and like I was just, I want to remember this. I want to like grab all the information that you were talking about, and we said, all right, let's record this so that not only will I have it, but we can spread it out to other people.
Yeah, I think that's
So
brilliant. Thank you.
yeah, um, I'd really like you to talk about your book because I feel like that is a great place to start. Introduce yourself and show us the book.
Fabulous. Thank you. So my name is Lynne and Paterson. I live in Goshen, Mass, and I have a Prakasa yoga studio here that I built in 2010. And during the pandemic, the piece that Spirit really wanted me to work on was to pull forth therapeutic yoga principles and practices and put them into a book. So I did. And the book split itself into two books, but this is the first one that I published just last April on Amazon. So it's called the
That
BackCare
was my next question. Yeah.
End Chronic Back Pain Without Pills, Shots, or Surgery and Reclaim the Life You Love. So I'm a little bit of a rebel in my life, having always gone the natural route from cooking for people with degenerative illness when I studied macrobiotics back in my 20s to going sort of the yoga and natural, organic route. And I personally don't use pharmaceuticals and advocate them as the last, choice on a scenario of many things one could do for themselves to help themselves come back to wholeness and heal.
Mhm.
And so the style of yoga I studied for 20 years, Anusara yoga, was full of principles of alignment, structural alignment that help the body regain its optimal placement and thus um, inform or enhance the body's own innate healing powers. So this book is, I'll show it again. Why not?
Yeah, really.
Can't mistake it when you
It
see it on
sounds too good to
Amazon.
be true, honestly.
Well, this is aimed for people with structural misalignment. So you could have pain from, bone cancer in your spine or cysts that may need to be removed. But this is really good for things like degenerative disc disease, herniated discs, stenosis, sciatica, piriformis syndrome, a lot of these issues that affect our spine. Text neck, is a new thing where we have this position from looking at our cell phones or our laptops all the time. Um, Poor posture puts the spine out of alignment, and your spine houses your central nervous system. So if your spine is all crooked and deformed, you are putting crimps into your spinal nervous system, and that's going to impact all of the systems of your body, your organs. If you're hunched over, that is constricting your capacity to breathe deeply, which puts strain on the heart, compresses the stomach, the spleen, the liver, the intestines. Poor posture is the root of many things. But most people just go, stand up straight. And they're not necessarily coming into an optimal position where then the flow of ki, chi, or prana, or the life force moves through the subtle field and then helps support the physical body, which is always the
Mm.
last to arrive in a chain of events when your soul chooses to embody as human. There's a lot of things that happen on the subtle level before, boom, you're here on earth. So this book starts, with the most physical, which is where most people are experiencing their back pain. It's like, oh, my neck, my back, I'm stiff, I'm sore, I actually
Yeah,
have pain. I have, a fiery nerve pain or dull, achy pain or throbbing
yeah.
pain. All of these types of pain are signals from our higher self, even our cellular self, our physical self, that something's out of alignment. And so, my job with the people I work with is to help figure out what is in alignment.
Mhm.
And so this book is targeting the most basic things that we can work with, which are things like our mindset. Because if you're walking around like, oh, my back hurts, my back hurts, my back hurts, you're compounding that experience. You're adding to it. You're making more of it. Oh, I'll never heal. I'm getting worse. You know, if the thinking around what you're experiencing in the moment is contractive, then you're going to move in that direction and create more of that. So part of, you know, learning to shift the mindset away from identifying yourself as the pain to a being that's having an experience of pain is really huge.
Yeah. And I had to experience
step
this
back.
in real life,
Yes.
in real time, I should say. Yes, definitely in real life. But in real time, I'm thinking back when you're talking about, you know, identifying with the pain. I didn't know, or comprehend, or even imagine that I would be in a position where the doctor would tell me there's nothing really to do about your back.
Yep.
There's nothing. And then I was asking my family or anyone who would listen, anyone who would hear me, like, can you help me a little bit? I was flipping houses at the time
Yep.
and doing a lot of the work myself. I wasn't in the office and carrying a briefcase, you know, I was doing it, and I couldn't even lift a half a sheet of drywall. Can't do anything. And, you know, people, those same people that I was reaching out to, they were saying, well, why don't you go to the doctor and get a pill? There's got to be something, or get physical therapy. And the doctor and other people were like, no, rest, reset. Meanwhile, I'm like bawling my eyes out several hours a day. So then they're like, take a pill for depression. I'm like, okay, I tried to do that. Like, it just, I don't think that I would have believed myself.
Yep.
And so here, 5 years later, I'm talking to you, and I was like, I had to go through that to be where I am now. Now I can help people, let them know. And just by having you on this show and my experience, like, this information can be life changing in a way that I want people to believe.
Yes, and it's
Really.
very true. What you're saying is a very common experience that the doctors don't really know. They are used to prescribing pills or PT or cortisone shots, and that's what they do. That's their wheelhouse. That's their toolkit.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that cause back pain are on the more subtle levels. So the way that you think impacts your body, you know, that's proven time and time again. We've got the biology of belief, Bruce Lipton, we've got Dr. Joe Dispenza, all these people, experts in their fields, are talking about how the mind influences. And one of the things I've done is to really go deep into that entanglement of the mind and the emotions, because you could be having an emotion, an experience, a feeling, and then you are critiquing or judging it. Or you can have a thought that's triggering the emotion. So they're very much entangled, and you have to kind of tease out to figure out like which one came first and which one is more of the root of what the problem is that you're experiencing. So the mindset is definitely a big part of it. And learning how to kind of shift that and tap into that part of you that's larger than your experience of pain in the moment. Because pain is like a GPS system. It's just going, something's wrong, something's wrong. Pay attention, ask yourself what's going on. Where are you out of balance? Is it an emotional stress? Is it mental? Is it spiritual? Are you disconnected from your source energy and source
Right.
state? So there's all kinds of things that
And you're
might
right.
be
And
the
another
origin
way
of that pain.
another way that spirit has shown me, I was going to say taught me, but I am taught by being shown. You know, I
Yeah,
have
I
to
am too.
experience it
Yep.
myself. I need a show
Yep.
several times. Um, so QHHT, right? Have you ever had a session?
I know of it. I haven't had a session. I do a lot of shamanic work, so I do a lot of journeying and soul retrieval and that kind of stuff. So I have access to past lives and things through that process.
Do you have
But I have
a very good
seen
idea?
some videos, and I know I understand about it. Yep, it's fabulous.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, when I had that sessions. I've had several sessions now, and each one is telling me something about myself. And then with subsequent clients over and over and over with pain and their higher self, just like in your journeys, I'm sure, well, if that's what they focus on in the journey is the pain, the higher self will tell them, I'm sorry, you're giving your power away. So your left hip, I'm thinking of one in particular, was very clear. Your left hip will stay like that. And if you keep giving your power away to a partner, follow up with these people. How are you doing? Oh, that QHHT didn't work for the pain. I was like, okay. In fact, it's worse. You know, if you keep doing that, that's the lesson. That's the only example I think of people that didn't really listen. But I was shown that for a reason too.
Yeah, that's a great example, because it's ultimately we're tracking these things back to their origin. And even though this part of the work I do in this book is focusing on the mindset, the breath, and then your structural alignment, really in everyday poses. It's not about teaching people how to do hatha yoga. You can get that everywhere these days. This is like how you take those principles of alignment, because when we are physically aligned, that gives us more access to our spiritual alignment, because we can channel that subtle energy down and through the body. And that's what the second book's going to be about. The physical spine, the energetic spine, the spiritual spine, how they all interrelate, and the way we can start to track and see the places where blockages exist and then remove them. And there are many modalities to do the removal, the shamanic work, the QHHT. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I also do the body code and the motion code, and that's work is fabulous because we can find out if some of the energy that's stuck in our field is ours, somebody else's, or inherited. If it comes,
I just had the motion code session a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's fabulous work, and it's it's all working with. We can do all this ourselves, but until we learn, it's good to have other people who are doing it and know how to do it and learn from them, or work with them. Super valuable. So
I think there's a lot we can do ourselves, but since the eclipse,
it's
I feel
hard.
like we're slipping. So like me, I was like, I can do it myself. I can do it myself. I can do it myself. And then sent me like this free session for a motion code.
Yeah, fabulous.
That I got. Or people that are saying, no, I need other people. I need this. I need that. After the eclipse, they're saying, no, you don't need anything.
Yeah, I mean, some people
you've got it all within yourself. We have to discern which place we're in.
Yeah. Not everybody's ready to do their health on their own, their sovereignty on their own in that way that you suggest. A lot of people made some big flip at the eclipse. Some people made flips before the eclipse. Some people haven't made them yet. We're all in a big continuum of where each individual is at. But I do think ultimately with whatever tools and modalities we have, at some point we will understand how to do all of that within our own field for ourselves if we choose that path. Some people may always want to use a technology or go to a practitioner or have somebody else. But there is that aspect of it's hardest to see yourself. That's why we have one another, to mirror ourselves back to ourselves, so that we can see more clearly that which is sometimes hidden or that we're hiding from ourselves. So, it's a great.
I love how your hands, when you're talking, this was one of my kriyasas that I first started doing, and the spirit started showing me how to heal. And it's very much the DNA. It's very much the energy around the spinal column, images of the caduceus with, overlaid with angel wings and the cross, like all three of them together. And then lots of my guided meditations, as I'm sure yours too, are coming down to the spinal column and then out into your energetic field. And so when you're talking about the spinal column, and we were talking about spinal column and the sun and spiritual,
yes,
that's not in the book yet, right? That's in your upcoming one.
That's information that I just came across. Oh my God. How deep do you want to go in this conversation?
I don't know. Let's give it a couple minutes.
I'll give you the shorter version. So
Okay.
recently I learned more about the decans in astrology. So we have the 12 zodiac signs on the wheel of 360 degrees. So each sign is given 30 degrees on that wheel, 30 degrees in Aries, Taurus, etc., all the way around to Pisces. And those 30 degrees are divided into 3 groups of 10 decans. So deca is 10. So the first decan is about you're sort of a novice to learn about the energies of that sign. The middle 10 to 20, you're getting savvy and building skillfulness. And then the last 30, you're gaining mastery. And then when you get to the end, you move into the next sign and you start learning all about the energies and archetypes of that sign. So I am born March 31st, just had my birthday. And I was trying to figure out which decan I was because the spring equinox is not always on the 21st every year. Some years it's on the 20th, right? Occasionally it's on the 19th. So I was trying to figure out, am I in the first decan? Because my sun is 9 degrees Aries. But when I looked up the date and figured all that out, I realized I was in the second decan. So each decan of each sign has another ruler that's coming from that constellation group. And so Mars rules the first 10 degrees of Aries, the sun rules the second 10 degrees of Aries, and I forget who rules the third part, because I didn't get past, oh, the sun is what's ruling my Aries. And I was reading more about, the meaning of the sun and the implications of having that as the ruler. I came across this part that talked about the sun and the spine. And I was like, oh my God, that is fabulous information to learn. Because, when we take the sun in on the spiritual and energetic ways, that's just pure energy. It's coming in and down through that central channel, which then on the physical level is your spine. So it makes perfect sense to me that we could equate that. And then if we have a disconnect on the spiritual level, that's going to somehow show up eventually on all the other layers of our being, all the way into the physical. So in a way, it's just saying, it all goes back to spirit, right? Are we in alignment and in connection with our soul's plan and life and inspiration? And do we understand that to just be guided by the one over and over?
Guided by the one. I love that.
Yeah.
So were you doing these things like sitting in the sun? I'm thinking, no, these were natural things. I didn't know what the heck I was doing until later on. I sit in the sunlight. And lots of people do that, right? But I was sitting in the sunlight in the window and just like, just bathing in the sun and imagining it come in.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
were you doing that before you knew that how important it was?
I love the sun. Get me in the sun. No, I make my own sunscreen. I'm not afraid of, skin cancer and all that stuff. Stop using
Perfect.
chemicals on your skin and you won't have to worry about that stuff. Stop eating poisonous food that's processed and has chemicals and things in it. It's my
Don't be
premise.
afraid of the sun.
My
Or
premise is
afraid in general is one of the
yes.
big.
And my premise as a health coach is that it's actually pretty easy to stay healthy. You just have to know a few things and switch a few things, and then you're on track.
That sounds
But the
great.
sun is so important. And if you look in the sun coming through your window behind you, you can see how the panes of glass are taking that sunlight and refracting it into, there's almost like a spectrum of color there. And so we understand ourselves from this more quantum science and metaphysical level, that this light that's coming through is a spectrum of color, most of which we cannot even see. It's beyond
We're very
what our
lucky
physical
about,
eyes
yeah.
can see. But we understand that we are made of light. We're prisms of light. And this light, as it refracts, creates all the different parts of the body and all the different systems. So, if you understand that your skin is permeable, like if you put essential oil on your wrist, in like 15 seconds, it's circulated in your system. It's very quick. So it's like the skin is not like, well, I was going to say it's not like cement, but even cement is porous because if it rains,
That's
the
true.
cement gets wet. So we want to remember that we are permeable beings. So to be able to be like, oh, I'm taking in this energy through my breath, through just pure energy, just bringing it in like,
Yeah.
Qigong and Tai Chi and, any
Yeah.
meditative practice. It's just like, let's fill ourselves up with more divine light. And then you actually push the other stuff out of your field, right? Like
Yes.
sometimes I go in and I'm like, oh, what is this thing? And then it's like, it's actually an instrument, a thing, something that was attached in my field at some point in my soul's journey. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to take that out. And sometimes things will come out very quickly, but sometimes I have to use the breath or the light to infuse my system. And then that
Push
helps
it out.
sort of be behind it to dislodge and just go, nope, that's not mine. Thank you.
Yes. I mean,
So
this is
yeah,
fascinating. It's just,
yeah,
um, a lot of times when I do like guided meditation in the sound bowl therapy, at the local senior center, and I know when it's raining, we're supposed to really focus on removal, right? But then other days we're removing as we're focused on bringing in the light,
yes.
and we're opening our crown chakra, or we're starting from the base of the spine, or whatever. So that's where the focus is, but it's all happening. They don't do a removal without a receiving.
It's the in breath and the out breath.
Yeah,
The two have to go
yeah,
hand in hand. If you
yeah.
if you only um, release, you end up depleting yourself. You get deflated like a balloon that eventually has no air in it. It has to be
Right.
a two-way street. And when you release things, you are also creating a little bit of a vacuum within your bios field. So it's important
Yeah.
to fill it with something intentionally, not just oh, I have this empty space now. Anything could come in and occupy that space, and
And
you
it
may
doesn't
not
feel
like
good
what
either.
it is.
You know, it doesn't feel good with that space. You feel like you're, you know, so um,
Yeah, like
I
something.
have this integration is a piece that I really want to work on with people. And it sounds like you don't use the word exactly integration, maybe, but
Okay.
it is you do. Okay. It is so missing. And even people are saying, oh, well, I remove attachments, I remove entities, I do attachment, without that second step, it's really a disservice in a lot of ways. Or
Yeah.
maybe not a disservice, but we could do better.
And
We
it's
could do
part of
better.
the shamanic, way. Let's say I've been studying in the shamanic realm for a decade now, and most of what happens now for me is just very organic. And it's, the journeys that I can have and the places I can go have just expanded, expanded, expanded. But for example, like if you're doing a soul retrieval, you're going back to that piece of you when there was a trauma, whatever it is, accident, injury, abuse, verbal, physical, mental, emotional, the
Yeah.
part of you that leaves is the part of you that is intact. And the part of you that stays is a part of you that's been wounded. So the
Mhm.
soul retrieval is to go back and bring the wholeness of you back. And then you must, you want to reintegrate that, because that leaves you in a place of more wholeness, not less.
So beautiful.
Right. So it's a really important what you're saying, to fill in that what we have released. And it seems to be a never ending process until we get to the point where we just go, you know what? I'm just going to declare that I'm healthy and whole. There's nothing more that I need to heal now. Like I've done it all. Now I'm just in service to helping other people get to that place. And it's not like I'm healing anybody, with my therapeutic yoga or with my holistic health coaching, which that's a blast because like whatever spirit says, oh, here spirit's telling me like this is what you need. Oh, let's try this. And oh my God, that's
Wonderful.
fabulous.
Yeah.
So it's wholeness meeting itself as wholeness. Ah, I love that. That just came in. Wholeness meeting itself or greeting itself as wholeness. I think that's where we're headed within ourselves, to understand that we are whole. We have everything we need. We just need to use it.
Okay. So can I share? Yesterday, I was doing a live, and I haven't live channeled. much, but I did yesterday.
Fun.
And so it's a lot of times I notice you doing your covering your heart space and hugging. I do that a lot, or I'll do the prayer position. And they said, no, put your hands out. Like, do you do this? Is that why you're nodding?
Receive and thank.
Okay. So I didn't know that. I don't have any education in yoga or that sense. So maybe it's something that people do. They said, no, put your hands out. And this isn't greedy. This is trust that you
Trust.
will have everything that you need. You are everything that you need. You have everything, you know, and then you can say, thank you. But it's trust.
If you can see
Tell
the
me.
mudra on Kuan Yin here, she's in this chin mudra, which when you bring your thumb and index together, you're creating like a circle, a wholeness. It's like myself and God are now together. And then, in meditation, it's a very common position. Then you rest your palm on your leg. So
Okay.
your half of your hand is in that receptive, I'm receiving, thank you. And the other is I'm receiving because I'm connected. I can receive because I'm connected. And we go like, okay, right? Big symbol in our Western culture, but it like comes from like thousands of years ago where they understood the energetics of that mudra. So it's
That makes so
fabulous.
much
I love
sense.
what you're saying.
I love it. I'm such a novice in so many areas.
Well, we all
And
are.
it's true, but they send someone like you to help. Or, the person that I was doing the live with yesterday that was willing to do it with me. Like that's kind of how it works,
Beautiful.
and now just trusting. My last thing is trusting financially. And so I think that message was a very big one for me to just go like this. Yeah.
You.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was yesterday. This is amazing. And um, what's the other thing that I needed to work on not getting a validation that, or um, my ego, they're saying the hurt part of my ego that I need people to know how effective I am as a healer
Mhm.
because it is so subtle. And it was such a trigger for me when people would come in and I'm like, I felt that huge release. I felt whatever it was, but they didn't. They're like, oh, you know what? I went to that breath work or, assigned it to somebody else. And it happened repeatedly. And now I can look back and say, why do I need that? Have you been through that experience
Well,
as
well,
a
like you,
healer?
I do sound healings also. At some point, I'll walk us into the studio so you can see the beautiful, it's a 12-sided studio. It's absolutely glorious, and you must come up sometime and visit. Um,
Definitely.
but yeah, I think we all go through that. And, because each person is filtering whatever shared experience, like a sound healing or a group healing or a group gathering. Each individual is filtering that through their own individual lens of experience, and everybody's on a different place in that spectrum. So where you might be like, oh my God, that was so fabulous, because you're more open and
Yes.
you can
Yeah.
feel, you have this sensitivity of a seer or someone who is getting information from the unseen world and bringing it through. For those of us that have that skill, it's very easy to go, oh, that created this effect. And we notice it very quickly. Where some people might not know that they have felt it, not on an intellectual level or a way that they could articulate, but absolutely we know that the physical body, the cells have received the sound or the event or whatever, because everything is pulsation and vibration, frequency and resonance. And so you might not get it here, but you're definitely getting it, in the body on some level. And that for a person may not sort of come up to the surface of their awareness until years later.
Yeah.
They just say like, you can't forecast someone's awakening, a big
Yeah.
moment, many moments along the path, it doesn't really matter. It's the
Yeah.
person will have the experience they're meant to have when they're meant to have it, and not a second sooner. So I do think, as healers, we have to be careful not to get trapped by that kind of mindset because
Yeah. And
cool,
especially in
cool
the
things are not.
beginning,
Yeah,
when you're building your business, when you want people to know how effective you are,
yeah,
how big your spirit is and all of that, because finances in this 3D world, right, it really makes a difference. Um, but
yeah.
again, they had to show me all of that and let me experience it as many times as I needed to experience it to say, we're going to take care of you. You have these gifts because we have a path for you.
Yeah.
So just follow that. And somebody else has, a path for them and they're going to be taken care of. And just be.
Absolutely. I think that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest things we're learning now, very much so. Because we're in a culture that's so male oriented, doing, 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 and everybody equates their success or their self-worth with how high a level job they have and how much money they make and how much stuff they own and whatever, how many
Yeah.
houses and vacations they go on, all that stuff, which is
Yeah.
completely external. And then
Right.
you see indigenous cultures where they have next to nothing and they're so happy because they're
And
out
healthy.
in nature and they're growing their own food and they have community and they have
And they're
spiritual
healthy.
practices together. We're learning from
Yeah.
those cultures now. It's such a blessing to be alive at this time.
It really, really is. So, okay, I have one last question for you. I say that a lot, so don't take me too seriously, but this might be the last question. What past life experience has come to you that you resonate with most in this lifetime? And I say past life, but it's,
Oh, yeah. No,
you
that's
know,
great.
a concurrent.
I just did a sort of journey with one of my teachers online, and in the in the same journey, we did 3 journeys. The first was to the worst life we've ever encountered, the most we've suffered in a life. That what I learned in that life was absolutely profound. Then we were in a life where we were asked to locate the life where we had great power and knowledge, but we misused it. And then the third was the life where we had great power and knowledge and we used it for the benefit of all. And that last life is the one I'll speak to because this is the image of Ichel, the medicine woman, who comes to me often. And, I just see her, with the
Is she
leaf
from Mexico?
in her hands. I think it's a South American, culture, that name. I don't know if it's
Belize.
Aztec, Peru, Mexico,
She's
all
one
of
of the
those
first.
countries,
Got okay.
all of those countries. And I'm sure she's known by many names, but she's the medicine woman. And it's always in the jungle. It's lush and green, big leaves, big flowers. It's always lush and in the jungle. And in this particular journey, I discovered I first saw myself as a child and I was just out in the jungle playing and learning completely on my own from nature herself. And then there was a moment where this hand came in and kind of pulled me out of danger. And I realized like the elders of my community were always watching me from afar, my guides, whatever you want to call them. And they just let me go at life, living life and self-discovery until I needed, oh, nope, that moment's not safe. So we're just going to draw you away from that.
Yeah.
But I played with the plants and the animals, and I just was like in that place of like a child, pure self-discovery. And the light in that vision was so whole and so bright and so beautiful. So I just felt like so grateful to receive that because that's one of several archetypes that I feel really connected to, that the way I am a healer in this life is not necessarily as an herbalist, although I garden and I make some of my own medicine. I think everybody should make some of their own medicine, even if it's one thing. Even
Yeah.
if you just bake a pie and you put your love in it, that's a medicine.
I
Um,
try oil of oregano. I'm
Fabulous.
trying that.
That's a great one.
Burn your mouth right off. So you have
Yep.
to be very careful
Tincture.
with that.
Yep. But boy, that'll kill any microbes in the gut that aren't not beneficial to you.
Yeah, it feels
So
good to me. Yeah.
yeah,
So is
so
her name Eshell? How did you say it? I always said Eshell.
I could be pronouncing it wrong, potato, potato, tomato, tomato. So each
Well,
shell,
the way you said it was really pretty.
yeah. Oh, thank you. It just
Yeah.
came up. So,
Okay.
but she shows up as the same being. So I feel like I have a long history with her and with that as even though I've come to know many of the lifetimes that were, you know, life ended in chaos and war and death and terror and all of those things. I also have access to lives that, I had great knowledge and shared it and was a healer of some sorts, different types, where I had different roles. So I think knowing the past stuff is great. And, I feel like I'm a very old soul and I've been around for thousands and thousands of years. So I don't feel it's most advantageous to try to go back and have a finger on every single life I've ever lived. I think it's
Right.
more important to like
Right.
live this life and continue the work here and to try to
That's the whole point.
recall, those threads and weave them into the shawl that I'm wearing in this life now. And then how is that going to help serve people I haven't even met yet, people I don't even know yet, because they're
Right.
out
And
there.
humanity in general. Um, in several of my, I'll continue to just call them past lives,
Yeah.
I've been dropped in to embody those parts that I need in this life.
Mm,
So it's kind of, I love the way you talked about the shawl in this life, but I would go so far as to say like that shawl is um, kind of imbued or melding into our very being
your skin.
almost. Yes,
So your meat suit,
yes,
your particular meat suit this time around.
yes.
I mean,
Your shawl of
your,
self.
your,
Yes,
your skin is particles of light. It's like particles of God, I mean, it's amazing
yeah,
when we remember what we're actually made of on that microscopic level. And then it's not just like, oh yeah, that's cool, but it's like a felt experience in your body. I believe
yeah,
the process of enlightenment is that we actually start to experience ourself as the light field, the field
yes.
of light
More
that we are.
crystallized energy, if you will, or crystallized physically, right? Like,
Yeah,
um,
crystal is one form, I mean, water is such a big topic of conversation these years that the plasma of the universe is
yeah,
water, is hydrogen, the basis of water, and that we're largely water, and water can be a liquid, a solid, can be ice, it can be gaseous, it can be plasma. So the crystallization is like a solid form, but within those crystals, there's also still flow of energy, like there's still the liquid form as well. So I think
yeah,
it's fun to be able to explore ourselves on many different levels and not just get stuck in the, okay, we're carbon going to crystal, but there's more.
wow,
Right?
yes.
More than that, or we can experience all of that simultaneously. And then you just blown your own mind in a good way.
You're blowing my mind today. I'm so grateful for this conversation. And
I am too. Oh my
it,
gosh, what fun.
yeah, this is so fun. I could talk, about this all day and just soak up all of this information. You have so much knowledge, experience. I feel like wisdom. I wish there was a better word. Um, they're saying you embody your wisdom, and that's it. Thank you. You embody your wisdom, and that is really profound.
It's been years in the works, years in the making. So thank you for
Yeah,
the reflection. I appreciate that.
yeah. I mean, it's so clear and so nice. And you know, at one part, it's like things are really simple. Like there's not a lot here. You're happy, your thoughts, your whatever. And then on the other hand, it's like it's so uh, webbed and layered and complicated, if you will. Um, it's everything, I guess. Oneness is everything, and it
Complex,
ranges all the
complex
way.
and
Yeah,
simple. Yeah, complex and simple at the same time. I mean,
yeah,
that's the beauty of it. That's why we're here to experience that dichotomy that
Yeah.
paradox, and learn how to not make it a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received and then experienced. Right? Life is not a problem
How
to
long
be
it took me
solved.
to,
I got that
how
from a
long,
philosophy professor,
yeah,
but it's a good one. Life is not
it
a
is a
problem
good
to
one.
be solved. It's a gift to be enjoyed and savored.
Yeah.
We're a blessing.
And that we walk each other home. That's
Yes.
also what we're here for. I like that one too.
Yeah. And home, home in the body, in this body that we've chosen. I mean, in yoga, they say it takes like 100,000 incarnations to get to come in as a human. It's
Really?
a big
Okay.
deal because the complexity we have is so much more involved than a worm or an ant or a microbe. Not that those aren't also wonderful creations, but we have this complexity. Humans, the whales and dolphins are one realm in the shamanic view of the different realms. You have the mineral kingdom, you have the plant kingdom, you have the animal kingdom, and then you have the human kingdom, which includes, our mammal kin that live in the ocean.
Yeah.
And because it's a certain level of consciousness, of self-awareness that we have that allows us to explore life in the way that we do, that's not just like instinctual, like an animal. Like my cat is always a cat. He never doesn't behave like a cat.
Yes. Okay. So this is another thing we were talking about at my group last week, that we're here to shed these layers of the ego, and we love our animals so much because they don't have one. They don't have the ego, right? We're not going to be animals without ego. This is kind of we can enjoy things that the animals can't. It's just different, right? It's not different. And I also think that those lives, as I remember, I experienced one as a huge tree,
Yes,
huge old tree, and that blew my mind. But we were preparing the earth. We were part of preparing the earth, and we were also part of preparing for now.
beautiful.
Yeah, so
I mean, the
cool.
trees, we're like trees. We just can walk around a lot faster. They have to drop seed and grow new trees to move the forest, further away from the original mother tree. So it takes them a very long time to
Yeah,
walk. Because
and to talk to each other, apparently.
oh, they do, through the soil, through the mycelium. The mycelium is like the internet
I
of the,
had no idea. This is new. I had no idea either. I'm like, okay, so I learned about the mycelium and that whole network, and that was after watching Last of Us or something. And then I read about, oh my God, it's actually true. So much truth in that, fantastic TV show. But anyway, and
yeah,
then the next week I learned about the trees talking to each other, and it was so cool.
talking to you. Years ago, I met this doctor who taught us to hug the trees. I think my daughter was like 4 or 6 years old then. And we would go around and we would hug the trees. It was so great. So we just got in this habit of like, oh, there's a beautiful tree, give it a hug and lean in, listen. What is it? I just had a conversation with a big pine tree down my street a few days ago, earlier this week, because I was
So
just like,
interesting.
I just stopped and paused to take notice and to be in awe of this beautiful tree. And then I heard it talked to me. So all of those things are available to us if we slow down and bring the mind to stillness
Stop
and
the hustle culture. That's what I
make
call it, like the hustle.
space, right? Make space to receive, as you were saying earlier, to receive that inspiration, that information, that knowledge, that wisdom.
So I have a tree out front here. It's a black walnut tree. Yeah, it's huge. And it's the perfect tree for climbing. I used to love climbing trees. And I think that maybe I'm going to have an event and we can all climb the tree. I'm going to be that woman in my neighborhood
I love it.
on the front yard.
When I lived in Boston, I lived near the Arnold Arboretum, and there was this one tree there. I think it might have been an old ash or something, and it had this one long horizontal branch that was about 5 feet up off of the ground. And somehow I just curled
Perfect.
myself up, and I would just lay on my back on the branch and let my arms and legs just hang down. And I would just like lay on that branch and just receive healing, just let go of, whatever was like, ah.
And I'm laughing
These are
at,
amazing.
I had a cousin who was very, very adventurous, and he would climb the trees. And I swear to God, he was like part monkey, and he would just climb up these great big pine trees. But he wanted to be up there so much. Like one winter, he decided he was going to have a wood stove up there and heat it. It did not end well. A wood stove up in his.
I hope he didn't burn it down.
But that, you know, that's just such a beautiful memory that you brought back to me. That
And me, thank you, because I haven't thought of that branch for decades. So thank
well, this
you.
conversation was definitely meant to
Oh my
be.
God, we should have another. What fun, what fun. Well, I'll just say that the
Really.
title that I'm thinking of for the second book is called Back to Bliss.
Did you see that sun?
Yep.
It's a
Because it'll
tree.
help me, those words will help me tie in from the physical to the spiritual. And that's really what I feel like. I have to say, I have a whole video course for this book, but I have done so little promotion and speaking, which I love to do over the past year. But I think now, Spirit is priming me for the next pulse. Um,
All of us,
but the second book is
definitely you.
stuff that I'm just so like, can't wait to talk about, and that some of the things we've talked about today, because that's what really lights me up. And that's what I feel like, my sole purpose is about helping people understand who they are from physical to cosmic, every level in between, to just claim that power and birthright as holy, sacred, sovereign human beings.
Wonderful. So I'm going to put your YouTube channel link down below. Does that have all of your information or
I will
just a little
send
bit?
you my info. My business
Okay.
and website is prakashayoga.com.
Okay.
Prakasa yoga.com. And
I'll put that instead.
that has information there, and the book has a link to the video course, and I'm due for a whole new redoing the website and rebranding and all that stuff. That'll
Wonderful.
happen. But right now you can find me at prakashayoga.com. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So nice to talk to you.
Oh
And
my
thank you for
God,
taking
Jodi,
all of this time
what
unexpectedly.
fun. Thank you so much for this conversation. Let's have another one soon.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.